Hello, folks. Welcome back to the State of Survival Dimension. Today, we're going to be talking about HumanitZ and its base building as part of our base building month. Now, we got a little bit over, but I'm kind of excited for this. Now, one of the things I have to say right away for base building in HumanitZ is it helps with progression, progressing further in the game, be able to make new items and everything else. But do you like it when games lock progression behind base building, or do you think it's kind of weird?
Well, what I like about HumanitZ is it's not the progression of the game is not necessarily locked behind base building. Base building makes that progression easier, so to speak. Yeah, there's certain things that you can't get out in the world, out in the wild, that you can get when you do base building and you build the workstations and things like that. But they're not necessarily like detrimental to your survival in HumanitZ. You can still find ammo, you can still find guns, you can still find melee weapons, you can still find all the stuff you need to get vehicles running. You can still get fuel, depending on your server settings. That stuff may respawn and may not respawn.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And I agree with you. It's not required to progress and have fun in the game. You can go pure nomad and just be going from town to town, looting, maybe taking care of some of the raiders, getting the guns, getting the ammo, and that kind of stuff. But you're missing a vital part of the game, which is the base building and the workbenches, like you said. I think the workbenches and the kind of like ability to make a area that you can not only just survive in, but you can thrive in is really cool because you can make fuel there, like you mentioned. You can grow your crops and all that kind of stuff. And then there's the melee bench, the furnace, the workbench, the gun bench. There's even a chemistry station for you. And you can make some really cool stuff from gunpowder all the way up to your own bullets or some really gnarly looking weaponry that can help you fight off the infected. What do you think your favorite workbench is?
I haven't actually explored the workbench like a lot. I still remember back when everything was rolled into one workbench. So I love that we've expanded more and we've got all these different areas of workbenches to work with. It makes the crafting and inventory system feel a little more manageable because before, when it was all built into just the workbench, there was so much stuff just crammed into that one workstation. Now you've got them split up and it feels like you're actually having to produce these items. For example, you can make the bullet casings at one station and then you can make the gunpowder at a separate station. But you got to get components at this other station. It's kind of gives you that like workplace workstation feel. I took over the prison in my world, and I kind of tried to set it up where I have the pertinent workstations that connect to each other, not actually connect to each other, but I got to make this one item here and then move it over to the next workbench. I kind of put those close together so it feels like a work area, and that's what I like about the new workstations or the newer workstations.
Yeah, they definitely cleaned up the UI and kind of transferred some stuff back to your player crafting and then kind of isolated some stuff. And I think that the workbench itself is a lot cleaner. It's easier to look at and know what you need to do. Overall, building in HumanitZ, kind of taking a step back away from the workbenches because those are the things you start putting inside your base. Building like the walls, the floors, the doors, all that kind of stuff, I have to say, it's not that hard to get into, but it definitely takes more time once you start building outside of like maybe taking over a house or whatever else. Because like you don't even like actually need to build anything. You could just barricade the windows and then lock your door, which will take the Zeeks longer to break through. You could just live like that with some storage boxes inside, whatever else. But when you start to expand your base, it feels like that's where the kind of material cost starts to really come in. You start to go wow, I need more nails, so I go break down the car down the road, but there's Zeeks in my way, and how's that going to work? So like, it's really cool that they have a early entry into the base building. But if you really want to start building bigger, you have to have those axes, the hatchet, the nails. You have to have a saw. And if you aren't using a saw, you're not going to get that many pieces of wood out of the log and so on and so on.
I was experimenting for a little while earlier with I think it's called the big base gate or the big base entrance. That thing is huge. I didn't even real I've taken over buildings and kind of like barricaded myself in, but that thing was massive. Building that up, it took a lot of resources, but it looked great. It looked fantastic. The gate that you put into it snapped in really well. I will say that I think that the building outside of just fortifying a house, I think that needs a little bit more tweaking and a little bit more work. But we are talking about something that's still in early access, so they're still working on different features. But one of the things I notice, and the reason why I say needs a little tweaking and a little work, is when I went to put up my palisade walls next to that big base entrance, they didn't really snap to the palisade walls and to each other very well. And that made it really hard for me to get a straight line going. And I kept having to go back and delete blueprints because I would be going straight for a second and then I get like three palisade rows down and think I was going straight and get over and look down the side and it looks like I had drank a whole bottle of vodka before I built that wall because it's so crooked.
But I love that. The holograms, the fact that you can pre plan out a base before you ever start building is one of my favorite things about this. Now, holograms are a little bit cheesy in the survival game, but the fact is, it still gives me an idea of where things are going to go, how they're going to look layout wise, and et cetera, before I start putting the materials into it. Because I've played a lot of DayZ in my time, and I'll tell you what, there ain't no snapping in that game, and you can get some really wonky placed fences, and you're all like, oh man, I didn't want the post to be partially clipping into this fence or whatever. Or like you start building a base and you find out the slope's too steep, so you can't place it on the official servers. So many problems with this. And in I think HumanitZ, they really approached this with the holograms in the proper way. The holograms are still not perfectly to place, but once you start getting it down and start really putting it down, you can lay out your entire base plan. And then, halfway through building your base, you might be like, you know what, this is way too big. I'm going to cut it off right here and go straight to the house and have like half of the base I already planned out. The other cool thing about this is that Zeeks and Raiders will come and attack you. Now, this could be while you're out looting or whatever else, but they do come out at you after so many days. So if you're building a base, like I said, barricade the windows, maybe some storage stuff inside, lock the front doors, they may easily break through that and try to take care of you. So actually building up a base with palisades, like you said, wooden walls, maybe a roof so you can like start peeking. I mean, they have a cool watchtower that you can even climb up into and shoot from.
Well, there's also the barbed wire. There's also like the concrete barriers that you can put up. There's also a couple of different traps you can put up around your base as well to protect it. That, yes, you have the wood palisade walls and things like that, but you also have these traps and defensive measures you can put out that make it a little more difficult to raid your base and to take your base out.
Yeah, definitely. And they have a really cool upgrade system too. So the wooden walls, you can upgrade it to metal and the barbed wire on it. Other cool things that I like about it is that, like that big double door you talked about, it's a great place to put the car. They have an awning. Their last update, I think, added in like 20 plus new things to build. So they're always expanding on the base building. It's not an afterthought in this game, it's something they fully focus on. And I absolutely love it. But at the end of the day, do you think HumanitZ's base building actually is worth going into?
I think it's worth going into. I don't think it's necessary for you to enjoy and have fun in HumanitZ. But this is one of the ones that I feel like if you don't tip your toe into, that I think you're missing out on a pretty decent aspect of the game. And it's again, I said it earlier, I haven't explored everything there is to explore in HumanitZ base building. So I'm still kind of experiencing and practicing and learning. But that's the beauty of it. I don't have to spend all of my time working on a base, building all these workstations. I can do that for a little bit, and then I can go off and have adventures in the map and go fight raiders and fight Zeeks and whatever zombies, all that stuff. And then I can come back and work on my base a little bit more later.
I personally believe HumanitZ did good with bases. I think they're going to continue to do good with bases. I'm always having fun building them. I'm never really having a lot of struggle. I'm not frustrated with the base building process. And I think that's one of the most important things with survival games is when a base building process becomes kind of frustrating and a little bit of a struggle. Like Sons of the Forest, I love their base building, but it becomes problematic as you get bigger and bigger, right? And HumanitZ, I don't feel that's a problem. The only thing I ever have frustrations with is I ran out of nails or I need to get more wood. But that's just running out of materials. It's not like a game mechanic failure. One of the people who love HumanitZ a lot is called Barmer Burt, and he makes crazy, crazy builds for HumanitZ. So, like, if folks are ever wanting to see what's possible inside HumanitZ, you definitely have to check his Twitch out whenever he's live again. But folks, thank you very much for watching the State of Survival as we talked about HumanitZ and its base building. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell. Join me in thanking Dimension 119 and Red Falcon for always being here and helping the podcast keep going. Ta-ta for now.
See you in another dimension.